Hey everybody, it's Em, and I'm finally back. Something I've noticed, a lot of you are asking me very, specific questions based around my portfolio or the application process, and I wanted to make sure I got those things answered, and I figure if one person is making a comment with a question, then they can't be the only one that has that question. So, I've compiled a list of questions that people have been asking me over and over and over and over, which I don't mind. I love hearing your questions. The inspiration mood page, does it have to be 8x11 paper? Yes. If you're going for an in-person interview, you need to have copies of your original artwork on 8.5x11 paper. You don't have to make the artwork originally on 8.5x11 paper, but they want to have a copy of what you applied with. So, yes, you do need to bring 8.5x11 copies of your artwork, which means your mood board does not have to be 8.5x11. Your croquis do not have to be 8.5x11 when you're making them, but you do need to make a copy of them. You can go to Staples, they can do it. I took a picture of it and got it printed at Staples. But when I went for my interview, I also brought my original artwork with me in case the copy didn't show everything the way it should. Preparing the portfolio. As far as your inspiration picture goes, they like to see one photo. My inspiration for the mix and match project is more than one photo because I wanted to show the two different things that this outfit would be good for, which, I have How Caverns and I have a restaurant. I could have picked a better picture. This is not a very strong picture, and neither is this, to be honest. For application purposes, it's definitely easier to have a very clear source of inspiration. The best way of displaying all the elements on the board, it really depends what's on your board. This is a good two-figure composition. This is also a good two-figure composition because it makes sense and you can read the board and you can really understand what's going on with the clothes and all that stuff. They're not distracting from anything else. Nothing else is distracting from them. This is also the other side, but, you gotta put all the stuff on. One-figure compositions can be a little harder. Like I said, this is an example of a good composition because you have your two strong vertical elements, and you have the diagonal that the orange makes, and then my flats are just down there. I will show you from my own portfolio what not to do. This is terrible. Nothing here makes sense. This looks like poop. I don't like this. I'm ashamed of showing you this. Ways that I could have improved this. I could have definitely made my swatches bigger. Also, I could have made sure that they were an actual shape and not some oblong rectangle, if that makes any sense. Make sure your swatches are the same size, because this is much smaller than that one, and that's just really unprofessional looking. I could have picked a better font. I could have made the font, made my little word thingy bigger. I could have made this smaller. I should have made this smaller. But I didn't. Also, my lines on there are completely all over the place, so I'm just But this is the bad part of this. As far as one-figure compositions go, this is good because it fills up the space very well. The big deal with flats, these are flats, you need to make sure all the seams are shown, all the buttons. This is where your details come in, and since you only have lines to show what the garment actually looks like in flats, you need to make sure your lines are clear. Tips on preparing your portfolio. When you're preparing your portfolio, I'm going to assume that question is dealing with when you're putting the boards together like this. What you want to do is, I used a glue stick. They don't want you to use glue sticks because apparently they're unprofessional and, glue sticks apparently come up. I have never had that problem. If you use a glue stick properly, a glue stick is fine. Don't use liquid glue, like ever. Liquid glue will kill your artwork, it will stretch the paper out, and you'll just have a hot mess that is not ranging on hot. It'll just have a mess. To mount photos, like I said, I usually use a glue stick. Fabric swatches onto the paper. What I found out from one of my teachers, the best way of making sure your fabric just lays flat, get masking tape and put that on the wrong side of the fabric. Like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Like, see right here? It's just this very flat surface because I used like a 2-inch masking tape. And over on this one, you can see where the tape overlapped because I didn't use a 2-inch masking tape. That keeps your fabric, like, in place and not fraying. So, as we all know, there's like a million different kinds of glue sticks, and the best ones I found are either the Scotch brand permanent glue sticks, not the resealable ones, or these lovely things. They're called Yoo-hoo sticks, and my high school art teacher had them, and I love them. I actually went and made sure I found them, because, like, this stuff never comes up. I've been making Valentine's Day cards for a scholarship, and they're getting knocked all over the place. Nothing's coming off, because this glue stick is amazing. Anyway, the best kind of paper to put the designs and fabric swatches on. This is 11 by 14 black presentation boards. Any art store has them. You can use poster board. Don't use like computer paper or drawing paper. You want, see, it's stiff. You can't, it doesn't wobble. Like it's a hard surface. They come in all sorts of sizes. That's just standard for the school. A few other questions that I've gotten. Back views of the original garments. You don't have to illustrate them if you don't want to, but you need to have the back view represented somehow. I chose flats for mine. You can do whatever you want. If you want to show illustrated back views, go for it. But make sure your croquis is, like, spot on, because back views are terribly difficult to do well. Advice on getting started with sewing. Practice, 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 and practice some more. You want to have a very good foundation, so that doesn't mean I'm going to sew ruffles on everything, or I'm going to make unfitted things because that's what I know how to do. It means not doing what I did, because I taught myself how to sew. A lot of it was me just flat out teaching myself and going on YouTube and not learning how to do basic things like seams. So, one of the things that you really should do, learn how to make seams, because if you're using a French seam or a flat felled seam or a tailored edge seam on your application portfolio, that's going to show that you are going above and beyond and you really want to learn this and you're motivated to learn how to, do things well. And that's stuff that I didn't know until I was in the school. So that's a big thing. So practice your skills. Don't worry about how it looks. Is it a must to have a picture of something you actually sewed or designed? Yes. I took pre-college classes for 4 years, and if there was anything that was hammered into us other than don't steal someone else's artwork for your portfolio, because they will catch you, apparently people would be coming in with, like, bags that they bought, like, canvas purses that they bought from, like, Michael's or something, and they would just applique stuff onto it, and they'd consider that something that they sewed. But the teachers would take that story and they'd laugh about it in front of the class. So don't be that guy. Just don't be that guy. If you can't find a swatch that you need because you made up the pattern, make up the swatch. Get the basic fabric for your project and either draw it or embroider it or bead it or paint it or just do something to get your pattern onto your swatch. You can't, or change your fabric if you made up the fabric. Usually it's easier to design after you have the fabric because that tells you a lot about how your garment is going to fall, but there's that. Yes, of course, if you are interested in going to the school and you can afford it, definitely take pre-college classes. They are the best things in the world. I took them for my whole high school career, and that's one of the other ways that I learned how to sew. I learned how to use a serger. That's where I learned how to draw. That's why my application portfolio looks the way it does. I actually took the portfolio class my senior year in the fall, and that's why my portfolio is the way it is, because I took the class and I was getting feedback as I was making it. To answer a question from Tanya, who I couldn't reply to your comment because you didn't have a little reply thing under your comment, so I couldn't actually reply, and that kind of, that hurt my heart. When you're applying, your question was, in FIT, do you need to already know how to sew like a pro, or do they teach you? The answer is, you don't need to know how to sew like a pro, but you need to know how to sew. You need to know how to put two pieces of fabric together and sew a seam on them to make them go into a certain shape. So, I'm sorry this answer is late, like 2 months late, but I haven't had time to sit down and actually make a video answering all these questions yet. When you're doing the sewing test, you submit what your best work is. So the pants I made for my portfolio, I made the pattern for, I tailored them to fit me, and I set a zipper in the side, and I hand did the hems. The other two things I applied with were a striped princess seamed bodice dress with a pleated skirt and a hand-folded but machine-sewn hem. And when you're working with stripes, the big thing is make sure they line up perfectly, which I managed to do that, and that's why I used that as one of my portfolio pieces. And the other thing I applied with was another princess seam dress that I actually altered the first pattern to do the second one. And it was a green taffeta dress with a flare skirt and a one shoulder strap. I was just really proud of how the skirt fell. Also, I was proud of the fact that I made it out of an old tablecloth. And the two professors who were interviewing me were also really impressed by that I could reuse something very utilitarian and turn it into something very pretty. It is possible for people that can't draw well to get in, because some of the people that I've seen their work could definitely use a lot of help with their artwork, but their sewing skills were off the charts. So it balances out. I was pretty strong in both sewing and drawing, but certain people I know were better at sewing than drawing, or better at drawing than sewing. And after you're in the school, it kind of evens out, because you're getting instruction in all parts. You're getting sewing instructions, you're getting draping, you're getting pattern making, drawing, life drawing, model drawing. So you're getting about equal parts instruction. I really hope this has been useful. If you have any more questions, comment below. I'll do another video in like 3 months for the next cycle. Good luck, and till next time, bye.